Hello, and thank you for joining us for What Does Good Look Like? Identifying and Eliminating Human Error Likely Situations. My name is James Bennett, Director of Business Services for Procedure Solutions Management. Since 2008, we've taught over 9,000 students in the US and Canada on a variety of procedure-related issues in an effort to reduce human error in writing. When we teach these classes, there are 5 main principles that we want to make sure we convey to all the writers. These principles are: number 1, level of detail. What to do or how to do it. Number 2, identify common error-likely situations that you want to prevent. This is also called what does good look like. Number 3, general technical writing guidelines or writing fundamentals. Number 4, organizing and sequencing of steps. And number 5, utilizing templates or human-factored writing tools to increase efficiency and reduce error. For this video training series, we're going to focus on the second principle, what does good look like, or identifying and eliminating human error likely situations. To perform the instruction on this particular principle, I brought in Steve McCord.
Hi, my name is Steve McCord, and I am the founder and the chairman board of Procedure Solutions Management. We are a nationally recognized small woman-owned business located out of Stuart, Florida. The reason I'm here today is I want to introduce a course that we offer that is focused on improving human performance. Outside of level detail, I would say this is probably one of the biggest challenges in the industry today, is evaluating potential human performance error likely situations in instructions, procedures, work instructions, guidance documents, whatever you may call it. Having the ability to identify and eliminate these human performance errors is very critical to make sure that as a writer either develops the procedure from scratch or they're revising the document, that they eliminate these potential problem areas so the error doesn't carry over to the field and create a problem for the end user. Now what we're going to do is we're going to break this discussion up into 4 groups. 4 separate little videos that were very high level. We're going to discuss each one of the topics that we would go into great detail in our classes. So the very first issue that we're going to deal with is we want to make sure that as writers, they identify those things that are called in-field decisions without clear guidance. An example of that type of step would be perform this as required, or if applicable, or as applicable, do these things. Now what happens is it causes the performer of the procedure or the work instruction to have to make a decision in the field, which we define as in the field as being anywhere where work is being produced, whether it happens to be in office areas, power plants, whatever it may be, wherever physical work is actually being done. So ideally from there, what we do is we try to tell people, we're not trying to have them eliminate every single time that they come across if applicable or as required, anywhere along the lines, but we want to make sure that that type of statement that's in the original document, or if they go to think about writing that initially in something that they're developing from scratch, that they recognize that that is a very strong human error likely situation and it would want to be avoided. The second bullet that we would want to get into is just the excessiveness of that feature, or the excessiveness of in-field decisions. That is where we've actually seen some documents that we've upgraded as a company where almost every single step says do this as applicable, as required, as required, as required, as required. And then what happens, the performer in the field has to make numerous decisions where they're going to say, well, this step is not applicable. This step is not applicable. Instead of using a conditional step that would come in and say, if you have any of these, then perform that, where we kind of at least put that somewhat in a box so that we still give the person latitude, but we want to make sure that we basically give them something that is more descriptive in their actions to be performed. The third bullet that would be in this segment would be steps that are vague or missing critical detail. This is a very common problem and one that most people even laugh at. Lots of times we see words that can have double or triple meaning to them, like slowly open the valve, quickly do this thing, frequently observe the meter. Those things are all decisions that someone has to make in the field and say, okay, well, how quick is slowly? Lots of times we joke about it as being an operator myself for almost 32 years, is that the first time that you do it, you just know to never do it that fast again. But yet the problem gets to be is sometimes you only get one shot at it, and that one shot could be actually lead to equipment damage or personal injury. So even in this segment, we try to tell people that we're not trying to eliminate every aspect every time that you would see the word slowly. Sometimes it may be more appropriate to use that 1 turn per minute, do something. Or while observing this meter, you have the meter number and its name, and you see a slow pressure rise then while you're adjusting the valve. So there's different ways that you would word that to make that more clear and concise, right? The other aspect that we would get into in this segment would be excessive administrative and technical detail. Normally in the classes that I teach, the way I usually present this information is if you've ever had a job that you're going to perform, that you spent 4 hours in preparation, forms to fill out, permits that have to be obtained, all that type of stuff just to do a 15-minute job. Many times during upgrade projects, we find that has just been information that's been carried over from one management team to another. And then we're actually where we are today, and we ask, why are we doing that? And it's because that's the way we've always done that. And we want to make sure that the writers are very sensitive to that they try to eliminate those areas so that we basically make our procedures and work instructions as clear, as concise as possible, and make them a very lean and mean tool so that we can get right to the point and the people can actually perform the work without a lot of other administrative burdens that kind of weigh you down. And the last piece for this one segment is probably one of the most critical ones of the whole list that we just went over, and that's mobile actions in a step. You'll see from human factors we say is that we're only allowed to have 1 action per step. Now the only exception to that rule is if you can have 2 actions as long as they're function related and they have to be performed at the same time. An example of that type of step would be a step that says push and hold. So maybe you have a button you have to depress. There was actually an industry, an event that occurred because they actually took that push and hold, broke it into 2 steps, and it took one of the power plants offline because they actually had a step that said push, and then step 2 said hold. Well, obviously that wouldn't be a good thing to do, right? So what we want to be able to do is we want to make sure that when we're writing steps and any type of directions that we're providing our staff, that we give them 1 action per step in doing that. Tendency is that people will read the first sentence, maybe the second sentence into a paragraph. If there's 4 or 5 actions to that, they think they already know everything that they need to know, and they start work, and then all of a sudden someone comes behind them a later time, and they realize, hey, did you ever do this? And I'm like, well, no, I didn't see that in the instructions. And we find it's in the 3rd, 4th, or maybe 5th sentence of a paragraph. So anyway, that's the first segment of the topics that we discuss and trying to define what good looks like. And I hope you come back for the next one that we're going to discuss.
This concludes part 1. Please visit our website for additional content and information, or contact us regarding training, staff augmentation, or human factor writing tips.